Hey, what do you say, ladies and gentlemen? Dan and I are excited to introduce our Buy Me a Coffee page. We've had a lot of listeners reach out and say, hey there, bub, we really appreciate what you do and want to support the show. Well, here's one way to do that without big corporations taking, 30% of the cut of your generosity. Just head over to www.buymeacoffee.com/BigBlueBanter and chip in if you'd like to support us directly. Every contribution means a lot, and it helps keep the show going strong. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for listening, and have a lovely day.
Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter, New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always my co-host, Nick Filato, and I want to start today's podcast by asking you, Nick, what was the most surprising thing you saw today during the NFL's trade deadline?
I'm so shocked. Just flabbergasted that no one wanted to trade for Evan Neal, Jalen Hyatt, and whoever else the Giants are looking to just get rid of and unload onto another team. Now, I'd say the most shocking, it's what the Jets did, right? Like the Jets, you have this new regime in there. You have Aaron Glenn trying to cultivate this new image, but they traded two of their best young football players. And Garrett Wilson has to feel like the Will Smith meme where he's just like, I just re-signed here and everyone is leaving. Like, what the hell is going on right now? And Quinnen Williams, what was it, a 1 and a 2? Sauce was a 1-1, and AD Mitchell, who we figured was heading out of town, out of Indianapolis for one reason or another. So yeah, man, it's just the Jets, and then obviously the Cowboys too, man. I mean, were the beneficiary, if you want to look at it that way, of the Quinnen Williams trade. And I look at it, and I haven't done the math yet. I want to pull it up, and maybe somebody has already tweeted about it. Like, how does their moves to get Quinnen Williams, how does that impact all of the draft capital that they received from that Micah Parsons trade?
Good point. Yeah, because Jerry Jones did mention when he traded Micah Parsons, don't be so sure we'll be taking all these players with these draft picks. We might move one. And it did move something. I don't know if it was one of those two picks, but they did move something to get Quinnen Williams. So we'll see where that's all at. We're going to talk about those trades more in depth a little bit later in the show, but we're also talking about a few other things today. We're going to talk about the Giants' decision to make no moves at the deadline, not trade for players or trade away any of their players. But I want to start today's show with a discussion on a recent post we saw from Paul Schwartz, who is part of the Daily News, a back page post. And for those who have followed this team long enough, like Nick and I have, and
post.
I'm sorry?
This is part of the Post.
The Post, the New York Post. What did I say? Daily News?
Yeah.
They're no different.
Do you have someone else on your mind there?
No. Is that Leonard's one? I don't care. I don't know or care. I won't be working for any of them anytime soon. I've burned those bridges. But for those who have followed the Giants long enough, like us, Nick and I, and most of you are listening, you know that when it comes to the Giants, Paul Schwartz, among all different people who cover the Giants, is the most tuned in with what the Giants are actually doing within the organization. And that's been proven over time. He has a pulse on the Giants and what they're doing. And so you can run, do you have the page up, Nick? Do you want to run this? So this is what it was. It was Schwartz, don't assume the Giants will be firing both, and that's in italics, the GM and the coach, a split ticket. And, Nick, I give you credit. You speculated on this a long time. It started speculating on this a long time ago, that there has been some kind of there's been some rift between Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, who came in together and at one point were seemingly on the same team.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of comments that they weren't direct. They were a little opaque, but just like reading between the lines and understanding the frustration. And again, just like human nature. You can kind of see where Shane's like, draft, we collectively decided on getting these guys, and none of these guys are playing good football. And nobody is really developing. That's on you. And then as Daboll's like, well, we don't really have that money. We don't really have that much depth here. And he has his own gripes with the roster management that I think he's kind of gritted his teeth through press conferences and didn't want to throw Shane under the bus, and losing breeds and fosters and then foments all of this type of dysfunction. So to me, it makes sense from a human level, because they came in as a pair. They were friends. Maybe they still are at some level, but it's pretty obvious one of them is going, and that's Brian Daboll. Why would Shane just be like, I guess I'm out of a job then too? Like, this is his career. He's going to look to preserve that. And one way to do it is be like, hey, look, we collectively made this decision as an organization to draft Evan Neal, to draft Jalen Hyatt, to draft Josh Azudu, to draft this guy, to draft that guy, to draft Tay Banks, trade up, to do all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And then he can be like, well, and they're not developing. That's on the coaching staff, because again, he has this whole thing where you can look at the roster, and I think Joe Schoen has not done a good job, but he can look at the roster and be like, oh, we got Brian Burns, got this. that's enough to win. That's enough to not be 2-7. I think he has a point from that perspective, but that doesn't mean he's a good general manager either.
He may have some degree of a point to that perspective, but like there's also so many other factors that go into winning outside of accumulating stars. He's done a good job of accumulating stars on this roster, and we are a very star-heavy team. We're a very top-heavy team. Brian Burns, I give Joe Schoen credit for that. You and I said at the time we loved that trade. A lot of people criticized it. We knew what we were getting. We had watched the tape on Burns. We loved the tape on Burns. The Carolina tape. Oh, nice. We got the Big Blue Banter mugs in the mix. We watched the Carolina tape, and I loved him at Florida State. Great job. Getting Malik Neighbors, I've said it on the show in the past. I'll say it again. I give Shane zero credit for. I mean, I'll give him a little credit for taking Neighbors over Odunze, but I think most people would have done that. If he had done Neighbors over Marv Harrison, that's a different story. That was not the case.
Speaking of, and Neighbors, I would take Neighbors over Marv now too. But that move that he put on Deron Bland on Monday Night, that was one of the. If you're a YouTube TV subscriber, you might not be watching it right now because people can't get their shit together, can't get on the same page. But that was one of the dirtiest releases off the line of scrimmage I've seen in the red zone in a very long time.
Oh yeah, that was the type of stuff we saw on his tape at the college level. We still like Marv, and I still think Marv can be a great receiver in a different situation. I still think I would take Neighbors over him though.
I would as well. As well. And dude, if I'm an Arizona Cardinals fan, just because I lived there for a little bit, I feel like I can opine on their team. No, but I think Jacoby Brissett should be the starting quarterback.
I know he really should be.
He's a better quarterback. He's objectively right now playing much better than Kyler Murray has played.
I saw this stat that I'm not going to be able to find again from Scott Barrett earlier. It was like the last 41 games. I'm paraphrasing. This is not it. Like the Cardinals have had 2 games where they threw for like 260 and 2 touchdowns, or like 3 games. And like, this is like 40 plus games. 2 were Brissett, 1 was Kyler. He just simply can't operate the drop back pass game anymore. I don't know if he ever really was able to. Now I'll give it. So back to the Shane thing, Abdul Carter, I give him no credit for that one either. Like if it was a different situation, Nick, and we had the number 2 overall pick and he went Carter over Hunter, I would give him credit for that because we were split on that. We weren't sure where we were at on that. I think we probably lean Hunter. And I think ultimately looking back on it, I'd rather have Carter than Hunter. Again, it just dates back to my takes on like drafting skill position players. They're injured a lot. They're deep. It is what it is on that front. So I can't really give him credit for that either. And then outside of that, where's the hits? Like, where's the second and third round hits that players that he drafted have turned into absolute stars? We've had some quality players that he's found. Cordell Flott's a quality player. He's done some decent job finding guys, but tons of us, there's just no examples of stars. And then the depth, man, like the depth that he's accrued on this roster, it's a big problem. The reason we stink is because we don't have depth. We can't afford to have injuries like teams like the 49ers and some of these other teams like the Ravens who have dealt with injuries and are now firing back fast. Like we don't have that because of Joe Schoen. And then last and not least, at least on the Joe Schoen front for me, is he's had major misses with major draft capital. Evan Neal, Deonte Banks, who he traded up for. And I know people say, oh, it was Winks. Doesn't matter. He traded up for this guy. So to me, Jalen Hyatt. Yeah. Ezeudu, I still have some hope for, but again, they don't apparently. But Jalen Hyatt for sure.
Well, I am a little curious as to why you have hope for Josh Ezeudu.
I've just always liked what I've seen from Josh when he's healthy, including the preseason and then his rookie season, just the movement skills. But obviously, there's something else going on there, and it's just not. He's not going to have the opportunity. Greg Van Roten's coming off his best game, and they're not going to bench Runyon anyway. So it's hard to know with offensive line. But regardless, Neal and Hyatt and Banks alone. So it's not like he's even done that great in the draft. Some of his greatest hits are running backs, and one of them doesn't even look as good this year. And then Drew Phillips, is looking not so good in coverage. There's all these question marks about his supposed hits. I really feel like he's done a terrible job as GM, honestly, so far, besides the trading.
Look, well, we were hard on Dave Gettleman, and a lot of that was not necessarily due to his draft picks, but he actually hit on day 3 guys. Darius Slayton, that's a hit. I know it's low right now. It's a hit. Julian Love, that's a hit. Xavier McKinney in 2, that was a hit. You don't really get that at all from we haven't received that at all from this Joe Schoen era.
Scadaboo was a big hit,
other than the running backs, and then you can throw Dane Belton is a good little situational piece. Micah McFadden, maybe you could argue, is a hit, but that's not to the level of a Julian Love. But I think the point stands. He has done a pretty terrible job at replenishing the depth, the back end depth of this roster. And look at what he inherited, dude. We gave Dave Gettleman a lot of grief, and I think rightfully so. But Joe Schoen inherited a star left tackle. He inherited a star defensive tackle, a star running back, two-star safeties. Like there were some core players on this roster, and a lot of them walked out the door, and they have not been replenished. Like you're trying to replace Xavier McKinney with Jason Pinnock and Tyler Nubin. That was not a good move in hindsight, right? And we knew that at the time,
right?
And there are other situations like that I just think, if John Mara and ownership objectively looked at the totality, the collective of this Joe Schoen era, they would see there is a lot of moss and rot within Joe Schoen's decisions that disallowed Brian Daboll from maximizing his ability to coach. At the same time, and conversely, Brian Daboll did not do a good job as a coach either. I think it's just, you need to dispense with this mediocrity. You need to get rid of this and then replace it with something better. And I'm afraid that's not going to happen. I think it's only going to be a half replace, and it's going to be Brian Daboll.
And we're not sure yet. We'll see what happens. This is what Paul Schwartz is putting out.
Prognosticating, man. That's what we do.
Yeah. And things can change as well if things fall apart. But I will say this, like it's not all just, we'll to start on the draft, like, where are the McKinney and I don't think Dave Gettleman did as good a job as people are now backtracking on and saying, because like he did do a better job than Schoen, right? Like he hit McKinney in the middle or the beginning of round 2. Schoen hasn't gone anywhere close to hitting that. He's had Wandale, he's had Nubin. These are nowhere close to the McKinney hit. And Dex at 17 is way better than anything Schoen has done to get a player like Dex that deep into the first round. But he also took like the Bakers of the world, the Andre Bakers, and Matt Pear. Like he missed on a lot of draft picks as well, as he should. Like GMs miss on picks, but at least he found some talent outside of the top 5 that's really, really good. Dave Gettleman and Lawrence and McKinney. But I still think I prefer Joe Schoen much to Gettleman, because Gettleman just had no process that I could ever get behind. He terrible from a trade standpoint. One of the worst trading GMs will ever find, dumping a 3rd-round pick on Sam Beal, panic contracts in free agency, Loco Mame and Solder and things along that nature.
Yeah, no, sorry. The connection's a little off right here, so I think you're breaking sometime. But either way, I would agree. I think there is more of a process behind Joe Schoen than there was with Dave Gettleman, who was much more like old school gut feeling type of general manager, who made some moves that were highly questionable to give leverage to players like Leonard Williams. It's like, Leonard Williams is a great football player. Saquon Barkley is a great football player too, but there's an entire process behind those decisions that I don't align with, because I don't think they're well thought out. And I think you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot a little bit with the Leonard Williams thing. You're giving this guy all the leverage in the world during the free agent negotiations, but Leonard is balling out of his mind right now, and good for him. We always knew he was a great football player, and he's really seizing that up there in Seattle. But then there's the broader question that you and I have discussed a lot recently, and that's who has occupied certain positions within the New York Giants during both the Gettleman and the Joe Schoen era and the Jerry Reese era, specifically the downfall of the Jerry Reese era. It's a lot of the nepotistic type of decisions made by ownership, and those people, I don't know if they'll ever be held culpable for this disaster and this mess that we're all unfortunately living through.
No, that we cannot control, and we don't know what will happen with them. We just have to hope that from our outside perspective, they're not playing the role that some fans speculate they are playing within the Giants' decision-making. I don't know if they are. I don't know if they aren't. I don't care. I mean, it's not that I don't care. It's that I can't find any kind of tangible evidence one way or another. But back to Schoen and versus got somebody like, to me, it's not just the misses in the draft for Joe Schoen. Like, yes, I do strongly believe his process was 1,000 times better than Gettleman. For example, not doing stupid things like the Sam Beal and just trades alone. With Gettleman at GM, we couldn't make trades. Like, we were getting fleeced on any trade, and we weren't even trading at the right times. Like, we didn't even have the decency to pick up the phone for the number 2 pick in the 2018 draft. Like,
other than his last draft,
just trading back for the pick
twice.
Yeah, I mean
twice.
Yeah. We just traded back. Like, a team wanted a quarterback. That's fine. It's not like I don't give him too much. Like, the Burns trade is way better than that trade, just from a process standpoint. Like, somebody wants a quarterback, they call you to trade up. Okay, we'll take a first and next year's first. But like, the Burns thing was very interesting and forward looking. Regardless, though, it's not like Schoen's process has been perfect to me, Nick, because There's been weird roster movement on the end. He's completely ignored the linebacker position, despite obvious signs in 2022 when he first got here that we needed linebacker help and we couldn't just patch it up in free agency.
I mean, I wouldn't say he completely ignored it. He signed Okereke. He drafted McFadden.
And then that's it. That's ignoring it. That's it. You have to replenish the position.
Ignoring it, though. I mean, I would agree. You would like more, but you only have a finite amount of assets. He did give.
But there's so many options, dude. You could trade a 6th-round pick for Logan Wilson. That's what just happened with one team.
I agree. No, yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just disagreeing with the verbiage. Really,
to me, it's completely is not the right word, but to me, that's ignoring a position, relying on a 5th and a 7th-round pick as your 2-3 at linebacker, and then signing a free agent. Like that's to me is just not enough, and it shows. We have one of the worst linebacker cores in the NFL right now. It's unplayably bad at times. There's no athleticism. No one gets in pass lanes. No one does anything for us. And then the safety position, he's completely botched, right? Like that we know for sure. That's been proven over time. He had McKinney and Love.
Dan and I are excited to talk about the Big Blue Banter group chat we've got going on with Chat BCC, the group chat platform where you can interact with fans and hosts of your favorite podcasts. We've been using Chat BCC to talk to our listeners about the hottest topics in football and just to kind of shoot the breeze about whatever's on our mind. Every day, one of us is in that chat giving our thoughts and hearing from listeners on their takes on what's going on in football, what's going on with the New York Giants. It's a lot of fun. If you want to come crash our group chat, it's as easy as sending a text. Head to BigBlueBanter.chat in any URL, enter your number, and start chatting with us and the Big Blue Banter faithful.
But even like the idea of like, let's get Cap healthy. That idea alone, I don't know if I know people like Will who listen to the show, may listen to the show, but are big Giants fans are like so happy that Shane has gotten us Cap healthy, quote unquote. I don't know if that has any real value being Cap healthy. I actually think it has no value being Cap healthy. I think you're better off just keeping your talented players and re-signing them and pushing the cap back over and over again, because the Cowboys should not have had the cap space to trade for Quinnen Williams. They went into this offseason were unable to sign any free agents based on their cap situation. But what's going to happen? They'll move shit around. They'll push cap to the future years. The teams that are taking advantage of the NFL with the void years and the pushing of the cap are getting an edge on teams like the Giants who are getting quote unquote cap healthy, because they'll never have to pay that price. Eventually they will, but the cap will keep rising. And we've seen this over and over with these good teams finding a way around. The Eagles are the best example of that. So like, would the Giants have been better off being cap healthy going into 2027 and 2028, or having Leonard Williams on the team still, right? Having Xavier McKinney on the team still, having Julian Love on the team still, and kicking that cap can, because you would have had to, but having all those quality players on the team right now that are hard to just acquire again with draft picks.
It's interesting too when you're looking at the Cowboy, and I agree, and I think you would be better off just re-signing your quality players, include Julian Love in there. There's a lot of guys who have walked out this building.
Those three alone.
Yeah, exactly. But with the Cowboys specifically, like I'm looking at it as like how are they going to get away from some of these decisions, because they're going to have to pay the piper eventually. And one of them, like Kenny Clark, for instance, they just traded for him in that Micah Parsons trade.
Right.
They could save $21 million designating him a post-June cut next year.
And they will.
Tell me that's not going to happen. Like with zero, I think it's zero on dead cap too. Like
that's what they'll do. And they'll get him and Quinnen for the rest of this year, which is stupid in their own right, because they just fell to 3-5. That's a very idiotic trade, I think, by the Cowboys for other reasons. But point being, like, you're taking advantage of it. Like that dead cap hit for the post-June cut, or like paying the piper eventually, isn't really paying it, because it's paying it in today's terms, according to today's salary cap. But by the time they have to pay it in 2028 or 2027, that cap is such a different number, the total cap that the NFL is allowing for. Yeah. And so you're not really actually paying it. You're paying it down the line. And that price, the cost of that cap space now versus in 3 years is a very different thing. It's like inflation. It's just general. It's the same idea.
Exactly. And with Brian Burns, for instance, like people were against the Giants trading for Brian Burns because of the cap, because of the contract that the Giants gave him. I was like, dude, that's going to be that contract is going to look like such a deal in 2 years. And it does right now. And it would have been, and it's not the same with the safety market, because safeties are different than edge rushers, and edge rushers are getting paid at a higher rate. But I think the number for Xavier McKinney was what, like 17.6 or something, 17.3 a year. Looking back on it, given his impact, I would sign up for that. We were for signing up for that at the time, but we were like, yeah, that is a lot of money. Right now, though, looking at how this safety position has transpired and what we ended up doing, just bringing in a worse player in Javon Holland, I would sign up for that any day of the week. And I think the moral of the story is, a lot of the times, if you have a good football player and you drafted him and you groomed him and everything, just sign that guy. find a way to get it done, unless he's like a locker room problem, which McKinney wasn't. And McKinney was a captain, and McKinney had, he broke his hand. He had this. He had the comments when Mark. No, there was some. There were some stories that were undergirded with some I don't want to say issues, but there was just like, oh wow, what's exactly going on there with Xavier McKinney? But at the end of the day, he was a high quality football player, top 5 at his position potentially, and the Giants allowed him to walk, and they allowed Julian Love to walk as well. And that was the previous year, right? In the previous year, they allowed Julian Love to walk. So now your safety position consists of guys that you identified, and one of them is athletically deficient, and the other one is Javon Holland, who's just, I don't think, as good as even Julian Love.
Yeah, right. Or at least hasn't proven to be just yet this year. And they're hoping he will be based on what they paid him versus what you would add to pay Julian Love to keep him, which are not remotely comparable. But it's also just like the Brian Burns trade is a great example of this idea that like the picks are always worth more. Or like we don't want to give up the draft picks. The Giants didn't have Brian Burns right now, dude, but they had that second rounder or whatever they had, the second and the fifth they gave up for him. How much this team would this team be 0-9? Like, would this team have any wins this year without Brian Burns on the team? I'm not sure.
They'd have
the Eagles game, maybe.
They'd have
that's about it.
Two leaders on the team too that aren't rookies. I don't want to say that about the offensive line. The offensive line, I'm sure, has leaders. GVR seems like a good leader, but the defense, I question, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and so it's just like, and I was for the Leonard Williams trade at the time because he wasn't playing good football. Remember before the trade, he really was not. We broke down the tape. He was not looking great. That 49ers game, I mean, it was a small sample size, but he was not playing his best football. Obviously,
I thought he was fine. Like I was always a big supporter of Leonard Williams. I just didn't think the Giants were going to give him another contract at 30 or 31 or whatever it was. And Dexter Lawrence was set to get paid a bunch of freaking money at that time. So I figured the Giants were going to part ways with Leonard, and they did. And I was okay with it because they recouped a second and they turned that second into Brian Burns. And I don't think that's as big of a loss now that people are making it out to be, if people are making it out to be a huge loss, just because Leonard Williams is balling out of his mind. But I mean, Leonard, I think he was invaluable to the operation. Him and Dex, like looking back on it now, looking at how bad this run defense, and the run defense was bad in 2022 for different reasons, but no one could run in the A gap. No one tried to run in the B gap. The 49ers abused the Giants in the A and the B gap, and then they were abusing them on the outside. They just can't fit the run in the Shane Bowen system with the current personnel.
Yeah, and that's fine, and I get what you're saying, but they could have also traded the other second and gotten Burns, I think. I don't think it's tied totally together. No, you're not saying that, but like as we look forward, like what Shane's going to point to as far as like, and this is the thing that sounds stupid to me, Nick. Like I know within this article and this report from Paul Schwartz, like prepare yourselves. It's probably going to be we fire Daboll and keep Shane. Just prepare yourselves, Giants fans. I know Shane's part of it. Like he has this, we did so good in the 2024 and 2025 drafts, which isn't even true, by the way. But he's also going to point to this cap health thing as like a really good job he did for the Giants, right? He's going to say to Mara, like, I came in, Dave Gettleman put us in this horrible cap situation. But by the way, the only reason they were in such a bad cap situation is because Dave Gettleman missed on so many of these contracts. Like if they were good players, it wouldn't have mattered. Kenny Golladay, Nate Solder, all these contracts he handed out. If they were actually good football players and producing for the Giants, it wouldn't have been such a bad situation. And the reality is he's going to point to this, like, this is the great job I did. I made us cap healthy. Well, guess what? The Giants have $112 million in cap space starting in 2027, and then they have which is an insane number, and then $240 million in cap space in 2028. Like that's what he set them up for. But what the hell is the point of the cap space if you don't have anyone to spend it on? Because you're missing on draft picks, and there's no one good on your team to resign. Like you'll resign Neighbors eventually and all these players, but like don't. Like that, I know we're going to get in a situation where we're going to have cap space and nothing to spend it on because we've traded away the players.
And you know what's so frustrating too about being a Giants fan? Imagine if the Giants did have, and let's just say they were still equally as bad because this coaching is bad. We don't know that to be the case, but they still went and identified and secured Jackson Dart, and they had Leonard Williams, and they had Xavier McKinney, and they had. It's just like we'd talking
be a much
about
better football team, exactly,
and we'd be able to afford it as well because you have a rookie. Like now we have Jackson Dart first year on his rookie contract. Man, this is the time. And you're right. There's just it's like who are we looking to re-sign in the next year or two? Right? Like there's nobody. We're like, oh yeah. There's like Micah McFadden and Cordell Flott, and those are
Kayvon
fine
maybe.
players.
Yeah, there's those.
And Kayvon, of course. Kayvon is the one that's. But like
Jermaine maybe right.
I hope Jermaine. I do.
But none of that precludes that they could sign all those players and still have space to sign more if you kick the can. That's the thing. Like, and as we move forward, Nick, with this situation, this healthy cap situation, you know what's going to happen with it, right? They're going to do the things that all bad teams do. They're going to have all this cap space. They're going to spend it on free agents like Javon Holland and these types of players that like are only free agents because their team didn't want to re-sign them, and their team didn't want to re-sign them because they're not good enough to be re-signed, and there's something wrong there, either injuries or production or locker room stuff. Like nobody good really hits free agency these days. So like you can't play it like this. And it's just, it's so frustrating, man, because McKinney was obvious. We wanted to re-sign him. Leonard, I admit now I'm wrong on. I just wish we had re-signed. Like we didn't, like we could have traded the other second to get Burns. And I just think Leonard, I was wrong on the way he's playing right now, how good he's playing. If we had him on the defense, McKinney and Love, we might be in the playoff hunt right now. We probably would be, honestly, the way they're playing football.
And a big oversight by Joe Schoen, too, was when you allowed A'Shawn Robinson to walk out the door, which, you know, I get he was here for 1 year. There was some weird stuff, talking Serbian to Paul Schwartz or whatever the hell he did, or Pat Leonard, whichever one it was. And then you have Leonard Williams. Yeah, right. Or was Yugoslav. It was something weird like that. I don't exactly remember. And then you have Leonard Williams. What'd you do to replace those guys?
Right. Nothing.
What'd you do? You signed Nacho and you drafted Jordan Riley in the 7th round.
Yeah.
And you expected Dre Patterson to develop these young players like DJ Davidson and Jordan Riley to become capable starters for you, basically, next to Dexter Lawrence. And we saw what happened when Dexter Lawrence went down last year. The Giants had to revamp their entire defense and align in just heavy personnel to try to plug up any hole. That's what the Giants attempted to do against heavier personnel. The 49ers just didn't work. Kyle Shanahan really knows how to scheme up an offense, confuse line. Like watching that all 22 tape, Dan, like you saw it, man. Those linebackers are in so far over their heads, and I don't even know how much I can blame them because they're so quick to fit. They stepped on the line of scrimmage off any kind of action that it could be a run, and then it sets up the play action, and then there's a massive void behind them. The spacing of the defense is atrocious right now. And it's because nobody is trusting one another, and they're all scrambling to stop the run because they can't stop the run. And then that opens up the play action passing attack and the quick game and all this other stuff, man. It's a nightmare. It really is. And the Giants, they need to get tough in the trenches again. They need to get tough inside. Can Darius Alexander be that guy? He hasn't shown that yet. I think Darius Alexander has shown small steps and strides this season, but I want somebody who can like anchor down in place, and we don't have anybody like that other than Dexter Lawrence right now against double teams. At least like everybody just gets removed from the line of scrimmage whenever there's a double team.
And we had that in Leonard Williams. And the thing is, like, I was against it. I get it. Like, I just to like clear this rant up, I just want it to be clear that I do not believe that the number one selling point I bet Shane is going to have for John Mara is a valid one, which is I got us cap healthy, because being cap healthy is one of the most overrated things you can do as a general manager in the NFL level. It offers you almost nothing unless there's randomly going to be these amazing free agent classes coming up. And there simply hasn't been, dude. Like these free agent classes are getting worse and worse and worse as I study the NFL. Every year it seems worse. Wide receiver, it's a barren wasteland every time we hit free agency, and then deals like the Gabe Davis deal come apart. Like, and offensive line, you get one maybe. This year there was none, right? I mean, there was Will Fries, but like Will Fries is a solid player, right? This is not like Trey Smith hitting free agency because he was franchise tag, right? Like there's no elite players to pay and hit most of the time. So it's just frustrating me. I just don't view that as a plus for Joe Schoen. And I'll say this, Nick, like, he'll be the scapegoat, I'm sure. Daboll will be the scapegoat. They'll keep Shane because look, Mara's sick and the whole thing. They don't want to go through a general manager search. Fine, and I get it, but like, it's not an answer for me, because if push came to shove, Nick, I might even decide. And this is crazy to sound to most fans. I don't know if I had gun to my head and I hate using that analogy, but if I was forced to choose, I either have to keep Daboll or Shane. I might consider keeping Daboll for Jackson Dart's sake over Shane. I do not believe in Joe Schoen whatsoever. I think ever since Hard Knocks, I've been really down on Shane. I thought he came off terribly in that series.
We have another Hard Knocks. We have another Hard Knocks. Dude, I can't believe that. What are we even going to like?
They probably won't feature the Giants much, honestly. They probably won't feature the Giants
much. They can't. What are you going to feature, man? Like, the ownership's going to be like, what are you doing?
I don't think the Browns got that much time last year. And
you're right.
When they did the North one. Yeah.
So I'll say this. I think if I had to choose, I might go with keeping Shane, because I do think
most would.
Yeah. And I don't want to keep Shane, but as much as I think Brian Daboll is a competent offensive mind, I think there are a lot of competent offensive minds out there who can be a better head coach. And I think Jackson Dart is above just being able to work in the NFL because of Brian Daboll.
Yep. You're right.
I don't think,
and I agree on both of those.
Yeah. So like, and at this point, I look at more from a micro perspective, even though macro is very important, but from a micro perspective, this team cannot finish. That's like they're the most blue balled team in the world. They cannot finish whatsoever, Dan. So you need to look at the coaching staff at that point and
Yeah.
uproot that and get that out of there, because that's more of a coaching thing than I think it is a general manager thing, albeit those things are married to some degree.
Yeah. And it depends. Like, I just think when it comes to Shane, like, and I probably agree with you on that, but I think when it comes to Shane, like, you could even if you don't want to go through this whole entire process, if you're John Mara, of like, oh no, we got to get a GM, do the GM search. This is going to be tough, blah, blah, blah. I think you could simply just sub him out for Brandon Brown and we might get better results. That's how little I think of Joe Schoen and his entire everything he's done here. So, like, if you don't want to go through the process and I had to choose, I get to keep Daboll and move in Brandon Brown, or I keep Shane and get in a new head coach with what seems like a pretty not so great looking head coach options on this market coming up. Like, we'll see what happens. Like, people are like, what if we can get Harbaugh? That's gone. Like, I'm talking about John. Like, that was stupid. Then like, that was never going to happen. They'll make the playoffs now. So it's like, I don't know. I just would love to see Brandon Brown or anyone really else. I've lost a lot of faith in Joe Schoen. I don't like anything really about what he's done, except for the Brian Burns trade. And just his general, I think he's okay in trades. But the way he goes about his business, it seems very need-based. It seems very flavor of the moment. It seems very almost like Madden GM-y to me. I don't know how else to describe it. It does feel like that, though.
Yeah, to me, it's just get rid of them both. But I don't know if
Yeah,
that's gonna
sure.
be the case. Yeah, I know you're right there with me as well. But yeah, it's not fun in Giants land. It's why we appreciate all of you listening to this. But it was a fun day in the NFL, Dan, with all of these trades. A more jam-packed trade deadline than we've seen in recent memory, with some teams hyperactive and some stars getting shipped to more competitive teams. I always wondered, man, like, if I was a star player in a crappy situation like Sauce Gardner or Quinnen Williams, now Quinnen not as much, but Sauce, for instance, and you get traded to the Indianapolis Colts and you're like, yo, revitalize, right? Like, now you're leaving New York and you're going to Indianapolis. A little bit of a hit there in my humble opinion, but you're on a team that is going to compete for the Super Bowl possibly.
Right.
So it's like, damn, like I'm waking up refreshed, baby. Let's go and get it.
Yeah. Highly skeptical they'll compete for the Super Bowl, but it's definitely possible, especially because I looked at their schedule ahead and they have all indoor games coming up, the Colts, with the exception of the Chiefs and Seahawks, and then one in Jacksonville, but that's going to be good weather. We said this during his tenure here. You can just look at the numbers and the splits. They prove it. Jones is a considered like 1,000 times better quarterback in a dome than outdoors. I mean, it's obvious with
this Jared Goff thing going on.
Yeah. Why do you think that's the case? But and so in that home environment, they're going to win a lot of games. They could get that number one seed. And if they get the number one seed, they get to play in that Indianapolis dome the whole playoff. So maybe, I guess, but I don't think they're going to. But for Gardner's sake, they got a much better chance of competing for the Super Bowl than the Jets do, right? Like, they have, at least they can make the Super Bowl. They're on track to be in the playoffs, and then who knows? So for him, it's got to be great. 2 first rounders for him seems like a good deal for both sides. I think I tend to think it's a better deal for Indianapolis because a player like Sauce is really hard to find at the corner position. But he's, I haven't tracked him closely, and I don't know if he's been the same level player that he was earlier in his career.
Yeah, neither have I. But I've seen enough of Sauce to know that he is a good NFL cornerback. Those are hard to locate, but he's also kind of like been somebody who's not the best tackler, not the most physical guy, and 2 firsts and AD.
The AD part I love for the Jets. I love that they got AD Mitchell back in this deal. And I'm so disappointed the Giants didn't trade for AD Mitchell. I really wish we had the wherewithal to do a trade like that. Or like this one would have never happened. But like, it's too bad Joe Schoen didn't trade back or have another pick to draft a player like Torrey Horton. Because I can't imagine how good Torrey Horton would be for Jackson Dart right now watching his tape. His tape is unbelievable for the Seattle Seahawks. Really, it's like they hit a... And now he'll be ruined by Rashid Shaheed.
Rashid Shaheed,
So I just picked up Horton. Though that may be a product of Kupp's injury being worse than we think. We'll see on that front what happens there. But like, I would have I had no interest in Jacoby Myers. Even right now, I wouldn't trade a 4 and a 6 for him if we had the option. Like, it was just not my cup of tea. I'm not a Jacoby Myers fan. I think it's redundant to what the Giants already have on this roster. And I've never really believed in his talent all that much. But I know he has a ton of good stats, like receptions, getting like these cheat code PPR stuff. But like,
he would be our best receiver
over Wandale.
I think he's a better receiver than Wandale's limited, right? So like, I always look at Wandale. Like, Wandale's good at what he does. I think that's a different conversation. Like,
Yeah.
I think Jacoby Myers is a better player than Darius Slayton, and I think he offers more than Wandale, I think. And now Wandale still has his niche and what he's good at underneath, and I think he has vertical capabilities. I think he's an excellent athlete. I think he's hard to bring down, as an explosive player. But he has Tyrannosaurus Rex arms. Like, it is what it is. It's just how he's built. He has small hands. It is what it is. He's going to probably let balls into his body a lot. It is what it is. It's just there's really no way around that with his profile. Whereas Jacoby Myers has more of a NFL wide receiver profile, albeit it's not, the flashiest one in the world.
Yeah, I guess I'm not a big Myers guy, but I know most people, it's just not my cup of tea for a wide receiver. I feel like his production's been mostly schemed up for the most part. Not fully, right? Like, it's not like he's a nothing player. I just don't think if we added him, it would have made a big difference in our offense personally. But I like the idea. Yeah, and especially for real capital, like he was traded for. But I like the idea of getting one of those other guys, but we didn't, and the Jets did. Good for them. The other deal, though, was even crazier by the Jets. Just one of the, because that one you can make sense of, right? It's like, okay, the Colts are pushing for the Super Bowl. They feel like they have the right pieces. Now they get their final piece. They can trade away those picks. And Mitchell wasn't working out for them anyway, and Alec Pierce is awesome. But then the other trade, the other big blockbuster the Jets made was crazier because they traded Quinnen Williams, who's still 27 years old. And I want to talk about this one specifically because Quinnen Williams at 27 is in a similar spot to where the Giants are at with Dexter Lawrence at 27 years old, or maybe Lawrence is 28 now, one of two. They gave up Quinnen Williams. They got back a first, a second, and Mozzie Smith, who probably sucks, but like maybe with a new home can be something. We didn't think his tape, like we didn't think he was like a nothing prospect when we evaluated him, like we saw some stuff up in him.
Didn't he have
so that one was even more?
Wasn't his only good game as a Dallas Cowboy against the Giants?
Yeah, it was. But he wasn't just a total, he should have some value if a team can find motivation for him or whatever it is that's holding him back. But what did you think of that trade?
I thought it was a lot. I mean, Quinnen Williams right now, he's still, he has 19 pressures on the season, a sack. So it's similar to Dexter Lawrence. Right. If you look at his PFF grades, his run defense grade is, I think, one of the best in the entire NFL. Overall defense grade is very good as well. And then he's coming off of a 54 pressure season and a 70 pressure season prior to that, another 50. So he's one of the best interior defensive linemen. It's very similar to Dexter Lawrence. And the trade was the Dallas Cowboys. And I want to pull up that Micah Parsons thing that I mentioned at the top of the show. The trade was what? It was a one and a, or what was it exactly for?
2027 first round pick. So not next year's first, the one after, and then a 2026 second, I believe, and Mozzie Smith for Quinnen Williams.
Okay. So we're talking about, so what picks do they still have from that Micah Parsons trade? And especially if Kenny Clark is one of the pieces you're looking at, and Kenny Clark might not even be on the roster post June if they don't restructure that, because how else are you going to make your cap survive at all when you can get rid of it for $21 million with nothing against you?
I think that the move to get Quinnen Williams, since they don't have to pay a lot of his cap for this year, the Jets are on the hook for that. It'll be next year they move on from Kenny Clark, most likely, which then turns the Parsons trade into just the draft picks. What did they get back? They got 2 ones for Parsons. Is that right? And Kenny Clark?
Yes.
So maybe, I don't know which one they traded to the Jets, if it was their own one versus the Packers one. That obviously is a massive difference, but it is 2027. But even so, I'd rather have the Cowboys one than the Packers one, even in 2027. Yeah. But regardless, I find the move really weird for Dallas, man. Like, they're what now, 3-5-1 after a disgustingly bad loss at home to the Cardinals and Jacoby Brissett. Like, again, we know we agree Brissett probably gives them a better chance to win. That's not a great Cardinals team, though. My boy Walter Nolan looked freaking phenomenal in this game, and I was a big Nolan guy.
Yeah, he did.
He's quick, explosive player. But anyway, in his debut, but like at 3-5-1 to do this trade, it just seems so weird, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if I could get on board with this if I was a Cowboys fan.
We got an excellent player, and I think it ends up just being Micah Parsons in a second for Quinnen, Kenny Clark in a first after all the trade, after all said and done. And that's not nearly as devastating as it looked before, because Quinnen Williams is a 27-year-old, one of the best interior pass rushers. It's just Micah Parsons was like the face of your franchise.
Like, you're probably allocating similar cap to that, right? And so it's like, why didn't you re-sign Micah? If I thought the cap was the whole reason. That's the whole thing that makes no sense about this deal.
Yeah, his contract right now is 4 years, $96 million. So he's making about, what is that, like 24 a year ish, something like that.
Okay.
So
Micah was at what, 30?
I think Micah's a little bit more, a considerable amount more. Now he'll be a free agent. There's 2 void years in his contract, and I guess his contract expires 2027. And one of the, again, it's similar to the Kenny Clark after this trade. Like, they could get rid of Quinnen Williams after the 2026 season with 0 dead cap, and it would be 25 million in savings.
Okay.
But I don't know why they would want to do that. He'd be like a 29-year-old stud defensive lineman, right?
Right.
So, like,
I don't think,
exactly. But yeah, I think it is a little bit odd. The Cowboys, they're not. I mean, they're still in it. Like the Washington toast, the Giants. Okay, playoffs. Absolutely done. So could they rally and win some games? Sure. Does this make their defense a lot better? Absolutely. Yeah, like Quinnen Williams is going to make this defense a lot better, but it does seem a little bleak after that Arizona loss.
Yeah, it's very odd. To me, it's just like read the room, right? Like this is a exceptional year for the NFC. We've got the 4 division winners and then 3 spots available. Those 3 spots are going to, if the Cowboys are trying to get one of those, they're going to have to beat out one of the Rams, 49ers, and Seahawks. And then one of those 3 North teams, or honestly, the 4 North teams, really. The Vikings, you may not include, but I would. The Bears, the Lions, and the Packers. So, like, now you're talking about 5-6 teams, including the Cowboys, for 3 spots. And the Cowboys are on the way low end of that from a record standpoint right now. They're 2 games behind all of those teams from a record standpoint. It's a tough sled. Like that's tough sledding, man. And I think Quinnen Williams will obviously help them, dude, but you watch them play. Their defense looks horrific. Their defense looks so bad against Jacoby Brissett. There were sometimes they got pressure. They were just leaving gaping holes in the pass game, and the run fits were awful. Like this is like almost Shane Bowen, if not worse than Shane Bowen level bad.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough, but let's get into what this means for the Giants and Dexter Lawrence. Because again, these are very similar players. If you were to be presented with this trade from a similar type of team who's going to be picking in the similar type of place that the Cowboys will be picking in this draft, would you entertain that for Dexter Lawrence?
So under this, assumption, we're assuming that it would be the Cowboys 2027, right? Not the Packers.
Yeah,
I guess
the Cowboys.
We're not using the Cowboys because we would never trade with them. Let's say a team like the Cowboys, where we project them to be after the 2027. So we would.
Let's say it's like 15. Let's pick in 15 to 18, something like that.
15 to 18, but not next year. It would be all the way in 2027. First of all, and a second for next year. I would not even consider entertaining that trade personally.
Yeah. I always will listen to anything. I am on the same side as you, though. I wouldn't trade Dexter Lawrence for that. I think right now we have this vision of Dexter Lawrence because it's very bad right now. Like it's never been lower for Dexter Lawrence in New York than it is right now. I'm not trading that, even though you're getting a solid return on investment. I think Dexter Lawrence is playing right now to like half of his potential, not even, right? I don't love how it seems like he's being a little bit testy and arrogant, and it's a little bit too I don't want to say he doesn't care because that's inaccurate and it'd be foolish of me to say, but it doesn't seem like it's as pertinent. The losing is really getting to him as much as it's getting to some of the other players on the Giants roster, right? But he's still one of the best defensive players, and he can be. And I'm just not going to part ways, and especially if Joe Schoen is making the picks at 15 overall and then the 2nd round pick next year.
I think that's the reason for me too. It's like I think right now in our heads as Giant fans, we're clouded by the recency bias of it, which is he's in a slump and he's not playing his best football, and the Giants are not winning and they look like this horrible team. But the reality of the situation is Dexter Lawrence has a much larger sample size of dominant play at the NFL level and is much more likely to provide us dominant production than the 2027 first round pick combined with the 2026 second in the time frame that we need him to, right? Like I know things look bad right now and they are for this season. It's over. But you have Jackson Dart on a rookie contract. You need to press to start winning ASAP. Your mindset needs to be, we can compete for a Super Bowl if this kid continues to develop the way he's developed soon. Not, we'll play for 2028 or 2027. So the idea of trading him now, to me, is a terrible decision. If we didn't have a quarterback on the roster, Nick, like the Jets, I'd be so much more willing to do those types of trades like the Sauce and Quinnen, because there's no quarterback right now for them, and there's no real hope to win anytime soon. For us, the situation is different. I know it doesn't seem like there's any real hope to win anytime soon, but there is if Dart continues to play at this level.
With all of that said, I would have loved for the Giants to make the trade that the Dallas Cowboys made with the Bengals to get Logan Wilson.
Oh, of course.
For a 7th round pick.
Pissed me off, that trade.
Right?
He's been available for weeks.
Now, Logan Wilson will be a free agent after the 2027 season. He's 29 years old. I don't think he's making all that much money right now either. He's pretty cheap, and he's had elite NFL film in his past. I don't know what's happened to him. I haven't studied his tape in years. I loved him coming out of Wyoming. I loved him early on in his Cincinnati Bengals career when he was helping them to get to the Super Bowl with Lou Anarumo.
Yeah.
And I look at it and I'm like, this is a 7th round pick. And we could have got him to help rectify one of the biggest issues that we have. Why would we not do that? Or is it just like, I sometimes wonder if like how glued is Joe Schoen to the phone, right? Like,
Yeah.
Like Howie Roseman seems to be sitting at his phone all the time making calls.
I know.
It's
insane, dude. How is Howie always like, it is weird, like how they always come to the Eagles. It must be Howie reaching out to them. It has to be.
And again, if he is, and I don't know, if he is still 75% of the player that he was 2 years ago, he would be arguably, I don't think he'd be better than Okereke. He would be a massive upgrade over Muasau. And I don't even know if Micah McFadden's going to be here next year. So why would you not, like, why not get depth in here and add it to this freaking roster at this point for talented football players, especially one who was, I don't know if I want to say the Bengals are a winning culture. I think that's a little strong, but they did go to a Super Bowl with Logan Wilson.
He played a huge role in that Super Bowl team.
And he did. And I see him go to Dallas and I'm like, oh, would they trade? And it's 7. And I'm like, I know the Giants, they value those picks. And I'm not saying they're not important, but
I am saying the 7th round pick is not important. And I strongly feel about that.
But it's mainly you would have him under contract pretty cheap for the next couple seasons.
And mainly it's just like, look, we're out of it. I get it. So like some people would say, why the hell would you ever trade draft picks when you're out of it? Well, the reason being, 1, 7th and 6th aren't really worth much at all in the NFL. You may get a lucky hit here or there over the course of 10 to 20 years. Cannot bank on that. And 2, more importantly than 1, for me at least, is I don't really care about the record. They need to put something together that isn't laughable on a weekly basis. And I hate to say it, but Darius Muasau starting is a laughable thing to most NFL teams. And teams are focusing on putting him in tough positions because they know how bad he's going to be. And it's not even like we haven't even seen the full extent of it. There will be teams that get him matched up in these one-on-one situations. The pass game that we get killed on for big plays. Logan Wilson's a professional linebacker. I'm with you. Like if he plays the level he played in his Super Bowl season, I think he's even better than Okereke. He's at least my kind of linebacker, more like he'll get in pass lanes. He'll do something for us in the pass game, which seems to be our linebackers seem to be freaking allergic to getting into pass lanes at any point in the goddamn tape that I watch of this team. So like, it's just a no-brainer move. It's a no-brainer move if the Giants were forward thinking about this team. And I get it. Like, look, they're out of it this year. But like you said, he's under contract through next season too. And damn, man, it's just an easy, you said it earlier. I'll point back to this, Nick. I'll wrap that up by pointing back to this. You said earlier, I don't want to knock him too hard for the linebacker situation because you only have limited resources. That is a fair point by you. You only have limited resources. If that's the case, then why add another need this offseason at linebacker? And why not just use your 7th, which you're just going to get a special teams player for in the draft, if you're lucky, on this type of player who's a professional linebacker, man?
I know, man. It's frustrating. By the way, we're prescient here on this podcast because Jonathan Gannon just named Jacoby Myers the starter.
Oh, Jacoby Brissett, you mean?
Yeah, I said Jacoby Myers like an idiot.
Wow.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett. Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't know it was Jacoby Myers. But yeah, no, yeah, that's something. Are there any other trades we really want to? There were like a good amount of trades just today. We talked about a lot of the other ones over the previous 2 weeks or so. But Mozzie Smith to the Jets, Jacoby Myers to Jacksonville, Jalen Phillips to the Eagles. Like that one's just another one where it's like, of course, Howie Roseman got Jalen Phillips. We loved Jalen Phillips back in Miami, dude. You got Joe Tryon-Shoyinka going to Chicago, Draymond Jones to Baltimore. Like it's a lot. And then Trevor Penning I just saw this on Twitter. I guess I haven't when we were recording. Trevor Penning got traded to the Chargers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so,
an
interesting.
One. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
we weren't. That reeks of desperation on it. Like, Chargers just lost Joe Alt for an extended period of time. They already lost Rashawn Slater. It's a nightmare, and they're still trying to make the playoffs. They still win games, like for now. I mean, Herbert's that good; they can win some games, but like, man, that's that tackle situation because they're going to move him back to tackle, obviously, right? Like they have nothing to put out there at tackle. He was bad at tackle, Trevor Penning. Yeah, real bad.
It was tough. It was tough to watch, man. But yeah, no. And then why would anybody trade with the Giants to bring this full circle and talk about the New York Giants? Like, the Giants are all these guys are going to be free agents, especially like Evan Neal. People are like, oh, why don't you get rid of Evan Neal? It's like everyone knows Evan Neal's going to be a free agent, and Evan Neal has done nothing in the NFL to say that he should earn a starting job. And no one's going to bring him in mid-season, get him all up to speed, and then try to throw him out. It would be a waste of a pick. Unlike Logan Wilson, that would be a waste of a 7th round pick. So no one wanted to do it, of course, right? And then with Hyatt, I mean, he at least has another year under contract, but the Giants, like that's probably an offseason move. Like, Hyatt has done nothing to put out there to teams to say, hey, we should trade for Jalen Hyatt, right? Like he's done nothing. So of course, the phone lines there was probably a lot of no's today. Joe Schoen maybe spent a lot of his time trying to find a trade partner for a bunch of guys who are forced to be on this roster because of poor decisions that he made. And now he is subjecting his coaching staff to dressing these guys or keeping them on the active roster or even the inactive roster, but still the 53, which is a big problem in and of itself for a team that lacks depth, instead of actually, fielding calls and trying to get guys like Logan Wilson for cheap 7.
Correct. Yeah, you nailed it. And that's the frustration we have as fans and analysts of this team. It is what it is, though. It's where the world we live in. And I saw the most pointless report of the day come from Josina Anderson, who like 30 minutes ago or 30 minutes before we recorded this pod, like deep into the trade deadline, 3:30, was like, just an update. Like, all things are cold on the Evan Neal front. What the hell? Just like, we needed to know who the hell needed that update. Like, obviously things are cold on the Evan Neal trade front. Nobody wants this player, despite the fact that like even the Chargers wouldn't take this player. As desperate as they are, they wouldn't even take a chance on this player.
No. I mean, why would they? Right. But again, imagine if like we could have got like a 7th from the Chargers. Like, I mean, I'm wondering, like, people like, Evan Neal, what are you talking about? What do you think? This is 2022?
We should have just traded Evan Neal for Logan Wilson, but nobody wanted Evan Neal, or traded an Evan Neal for 7th and then gotten Logan Wilson, but nobody wanted to give a 7th for Evan Neal. And this is the problem here.
And the thing that pisses me off about this, right? We have all of these issues with this team. Evan Neal's going to be on the active roster this week. Or maybe not the active roster on the game day, but he's going to be on the roster. Like, he's not getting cut, is my point. Right. And he's gone after this season. So why is he here?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Depth. I don't know. He would probably be the guy they turn to, though, if they get an injury at guard.
He might. He might be.
He's probably
part of me wants to see it, but like
I want to see it, to be honest.
Just to see, right?
I really want to see it, if I'm going to be honest, especially about 2-7. But I could very much so regret that statement. Like, one game into it, like, oh no, he's getting Jackson Dart killed.
It would have been cool to see earlier in the season, and maybe if you put in anything competent, then you could trade him. But like right now, people like, I haven't seen anything from this guy since like the preseason. So
good point. They ruined any chance of trading him by not playing him early. But at the same time, they were trying to win football games and compete for the playoffs. And they believed GVR, and they were right, probably gave them a better chance to win. So I would say so. Yeah. It's a bad situation. And he had a good game, GVR, his first good game of the year last week. Yeah, man, it's a tough time for the Giants. No trade action on the deadline. We're moving forward with this wide receiver and linebacker corpse, and we're just going to have to see what happens as we move forward. Jackson Dart continues to have a worse and worse situation develop for him. He's fighting through it for now. He's playing unbelievable for now. I saw today, this has nothing to do with our football, but Jackson Dart has the 3rd most fantasy points of any quarterback since he took over as starting quarterback for the Giants, beating out like some of the studs at fantasy. Also, from a fantasy standpoint, Jacob Gibbs said this, he's having the 6th best start of all time for a quarterback from fantasy. But the list of the players are Robert Griffin. It's like all the like stud seasons we've had over the years at quarterback. He's like at that level.
That's
mostly because they're rushing, but yeah.
No, but still, man, that says a lot, because it's not just like people. If people want to try, and I know you were not doing this, but if people want to try to be like, oh, it's a lot of garbage time, it's like Jackson Dart has led 4 opening drive touchdowns. He's led second drive touchdowns.
He racks up touchdowns he's had touchdowns called back, touchdowns dropped, the Slayton drop, the Humphrey drop against the Eagles. He had tons of drops too.
Like, if there's anything positive that we could take away from this absolute abject disaster that is the New York Giants right now, it's the fact that I think they have a future quarterback, and that is a massive deal. I know it is not resulting in wins right now, but that is a massive deal, especially going forward, and especially, and we know this is more than likely going to be the case, the Giants are looking for another coach because coaches want to work with competent young quarterbacks.
Yes.
And we have one of those.
I'll say this, dude. If we didn't have this, I can't even imagine how depressed I'd be about this team right now if we didn't have Jackson Dart. No, I'm serious. I'm dead serious, dude. If we're just rolling into this thing the rest of the season with like, we missed in the draft, we couldn't get a quarterback, we didn't get the guy we wanted. We've got Jameis, we've got Russ. We'll play Jameis. Like, it would be fun to watch Jameis, but we would have no hope, and we would be rolling into the offseason like, what the hell are we going to do? Fernando Mendoza, who's like looks okay, but he's probably a system quarterback at Indiana and like not good for the NFL. I will see. I might be wrong. I'd like Mendoza to some extent more than the rest of those guys, but like, it would have been a bad situation. And I don't want to say that. Like, quarterbacks can come out of nowhere. We weren't particularly like, we should take Jackson Dart at 3 overall. We saw some upside, but like he came in some ways out of nowhere. So I don't want to put it, we wouldn't know, right? Like we would be rolling into the offseason again with literally no hope. We'd be the Jets right now.
Ooh. Well,
but at least they have the picks.
Yeah, the Jets have Jets have a lot of picks too. Like a lot. They're gonna have at least what in the top 60. They're probably gonna have
first round picks in the next 2 years.
5 first-round picks in the next 2 years, and then they have several seconds as well. They're probably going to have like 8, 9 picks in the next 2 years in the top 60 or something.
They can totally rebuild their team if they draft right, and that's been a problem. As I've said, I had a lot of conversation with Jets fans, Jets friend fans today. They said, "Yeah, but we don't draft good." So like, what the hell? Like, they're so done. I'm so thankful. I feel at times I feel like I take for granted that we covered the Giants, as crazy as that may sound, Nick, because I couldn't imagine doing this being a Jets podcast and doing the Jet. Like, most of my Jets friends have like completely checked out of this franchise. They've reached the breaking point where there's just nothing left to do with that franchise. Like, they don't watch the games on Sundays anymore. Sometimes they'll say, I ask them, do you watch the games? Occasionally, if I'm around, I'll maybe throw it on, but not often. And I won't make my plans around them. There's just no reason to like the Jets. Like, one of my friends who's a diehard fan, shout out Gary Levine. I think we've mentioned on the pod before. He doesn't even know if he considers himself a Jets fan anymore. This is one of the diehard. Like, he would be a listener of this pod. He's that level fan of the Jets, or was it? He doesn't know if he's a fan anymore. He's so despondent about the team. So at least we're not at that point, Giants fans. We have Jackson Dart. We have Abdul Carter. We have Brian Burns. We have some sick talent on this team.
Homie has disassociated from Jet fandom and just absolutely questions everything about his existence as a football fan. I love it, dude.
Yes, and it's not the only one who's told me that, by the way. Multiple Jets fans have told me that.
Hey, I get it. The Jets are – we say the Giants are an abject disaster, which they are.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
Like the Jets take it to a new level, dude, and they have no quarterback on the roster. Like, they're in really bad shape.
Yeah. Hey.
But anyway, it's Giants Pod. Thank you for listening. Glass half full. Thank you for listening to Big Blue Banter Pod. Wanted to get on and rap a little bit about the trade deadline, some of the stuff with Dex, the no trades from the Giants, and then most importantly, the rumor and report that it seems likely the Giants are going to fire Daboll and bring back Joe Schoen. So that may be a reality we have to soon come to terms with. Have a great rest of your week and weekend. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Otherwise, have a great rest of your night. We'll talk to you soon.